to the church itself.
Yeah, and I think this was the time when Shaw decided to give his ideology, right? So I think Vaibhav bhai can tell us more about the Shavian ideal.
George Bernard Shaw has put down his ideology, his world view in these lines, and I am going to read out quote, "This is the true joy in life, being used for a purpose recognized by yourself as a mighty one, being thoroughly worn out before you are thrown on the scrap heap, being a force of nature instead of a feverish, selfish little cloud of ailments and grievances, complaining that the world will not devote itself to making you happy." And he goes on to add, "I am of the opinion that my life belongs to the community, and as long as I live, it is my privilege to do for it whatever I can. I want to be thoroughly used up when I die, for the harder work, the more I live. Life is no brief candle to me, it's a sort of splendid torch which I have got hold of for a moment, and I want to make it burn as brightly as possible before handing it on to future generations." So this was the philosophy of George Bernard Shaw that he incorporated in his plays through various characters.
Right. So thank you, Vaibhav bhai. So this is the scenario during which Bernard Shaw, and this is the background that influenced Bernard Shaw as a dramatist. Bernard Shaw, he wrote more than 60 plays, and to be very precise, he wrote 63 plays. Friends, it is also amazing to note that he was an essayist, a novelist, and a short story writer. And I would also like to mention that he wrote an autobiographical prose work also, and in a very humorous way, he has dedicated the work to the reader's shelf, and he says that this is a work of myself for your shelf. So this was the man who addressed prevailing social problems but had a vein of comedy. He could address the serious problems of Europe both at the personal level, at the public level, but in a very comic way, and that is why his comedies are known as Shavian comedies, because they have that subtlety of humor, the subtlety of satire, and it is a blend of serious ideology, change, reforms. Also, Bernard Shaw was a very good orator, and he is the only person to have been awarded both a Nobel Prize in Literature for his contribution in 1925, and he also won an Oscar award for his play Pygmalion. And from Pygmalion, a movie called My Fair Lady was made in 1938, around 1938, and for that he won this Academy Award. And you will be surprised to know that this through this movie, Shaw became even more popular, that the movie has been adopted even into Gujarati language, in our regional language. It is known as Santu Rangili, which is based on My Fair Lady, which is scripted from Bernard Shaw's Pygmalion. So Shaw is a person who comes up with ideologies that crosses the boundaries of time, nation. And so Bernard Shaw was a political activist. He was a dedicated socialist and a charter member of the Fabian Society. Now this Fabian Society is the European organization that believes in democratic socialism. Shaw was a staunch socialist, a democrat, and he became a member. In order to change the system, around 1897, he decided to go into active politics. He was elected as a local councillor to the London County Council. He was also the founder of the left-wing magazine New Statesman in 1913, and he was a prolific writer. He wrote about all the social issues, almost all the social issues, in this his left-wing magazine. And being a writer, he was fond of writing letters, and he wrote during his lifetime, that is almost a century, he wrote 250,000 letters to all his friends, family members, fans, to actresses, to the government people, to even to an income tax officer. And I heard a very interesting story from Vaibhav bhai. I'll request him to tell you about the letter that Bernard Shaw wrote to an income tax officer, and due to that England had to change the law, income tax law. So I request Vaibhav bhai to read out a few lines from that letter.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. When Bernard Shaw got married, he refused to file a joint income tax return, and he wrote a letter to the income tax commissioner saying that he does not have any say in the spending of his wife's expenditure, and he does not decide for which purposes she uses her money. Therefore, it would be advisable to incorporate a clause in the Income Tax Act whereby husband and wife can file income tax returns separately. So I am going to read out a few lines from the letter, a comic letter that he wrote to the income tax commissioner, after which the amendment is called the Bernard Shaw Relief Act. It actually came into effect that husband and wife can file different income tax returns, and this is what he wrote to the income tax commissioner. I quote, her property is a separate property. She keeps a separate banking account at a separate bank. Her solicitor is not my solicitor. I can make a guess at her means from her style of living, exactly as the surveyor of income tax does when he makes a shot at an assessment in the absence of exact information. But beyond that, I have no more knowledge of her income than I have of yours. I have therefore asked her to give me a statement. She refuses on principle. As far as I know, I have no legal means of compelling her to make any such disclosure, and if I had, it does not follow that I am bound to incur law costs to obtain information which is required not by myself but by the state. Clearly, it is within the power of the commissioners to compel my wife to make a full disclosure of her income for the purposes of taxation. Unquote.
Thank you, Vaibhav bhai. I think he used to have respect for the space of women in British society, in the conservative British society, and that we can find in his plays also. Friends, I would also like to talk about some the literary achievements. As I said, he started as a writer, he started as a music critic. He was very vocal about those people who critiqued on dramatic practice of editing Shakespeare's plays. He used to believe that if you edit the original work, that kills the spirit of the drama. He became a drama critic for the Saturday Review from 1895 to 1898. And as a writer, as a creative writer, he started his career as a novelist. 5 unsuccessful novels in a series, and that was a great setback for the writer. And that was around 1879, and from 1879 to 1883. He also started writing short stories, but nothing worked. He decided not to even publish those works, but eventually all were published. During this time, he started reading Henrik Ibsen. As Vaibhav bhai said, he was influenced by this 19th century Norwegian playwright Henrik Ibsen, and in order to study Ibsen in original, Bernard Shaw studied Norwegian languages, even the dialects also. And Ibsen is responsible for bringing to the theatre number 1, a well-made play, number 2, elements of the mood play, number 3, social realism, and number 4, psychological realism. And out of these 4 points, Bernard Shaw got influenced in writing plays based on social realism, and all his plays, they are well made plays. He started working as a dramatist in 1885. With the help of a friend, he wrote a script for widowers' houses. Then he decided not to write the play. Something happened that he became a producer during those days and decided to write the script on his own again, and he produced a drama in 1892, the drama which he later called it as one of his worst works. But the best part was that he found his medium, the medium of expression that he was looking for, the medium to express his ideologies, and then he went on to write 63 plays, and most of them are full-length plays. This is a list of some of his plays. This is an edited list. Some plays that he wrote during his career in the early life, then when he was at the peak of his career, and the later plays, and some of his plays like Caesar and Cleopatra, Man and Superman, they are known for known as the vehicles of Shavian ideology. Bernard Shaw became a kind of mythological character for people. You know, you can talk about any of a humorous anecdote and you can connect it with Bernard Shaw. So this was the place he became a kind of a spokesperson for Europe. And it is also interesting to note that there is a writer called L.W. Carroll in his in his critical work Bernard Shaw and BBC. He mentions that in Germany Hitler allowed only 2 writers to be studied in English, because Hitler had banned English literature from Germany during the Second World War. Shakespeare, because he has not written anything about London, no setting of London is available in Shakespeare's plays, and Shaw, because Shaw writes everything against imperialistic society, everything against the ruling government in England. So that is therefore Shaw is a writer who became so popular in all the European countries even during the war, because he was a spokesperson of a common man. And he was a socialist, a strong socialist, and in a letter to Henry James, one of the leading literary figures of all times, he wrote that, "I as a socialist have had to preach as much as anyone the enormous power of the environment. We can change it. We must change it. There is absolutely no other sense in life than the task of changing it. What is the use of writing plays? What is the use of writing anything if there is not a will which finally molds chaos itself into a race of gods?" In a very serious note, he talks about changing the society and in changing the European scenario, and he writes against the imperialistic struggles that Europe went through. Now let me show you a video in which Bernard Shaw talks about his ideas on Mussolini. Some people believe that he talks in support of Mussolini, but no friends, this is an absolute satire on the political powers during his time. So let's watch
people
this.
Who only know me from reading my book, or sometimes even from seeing my plays, get a most unpleasant impression. And the people who really meet me, as you have been kind enough to meet me now, well, they see that I am a most harmless person. I am quite a kindly person, you know. But still, it's not necessary for me always to look as genial as I'm trying to look now. Of course, I can put on the other thing, for instance. Now that is what I call my Mussolini stunt. They, by the way, I think in justice to Signor Mussolini, I ought to tell you, that he has a very wonderful head. He has a wonderful brow which comes down to here. But the difficulty is that he can't take it off. Now, if you watch me, I can put on that imposing look that terrifies the Mussolini look. Now just watch. I can take it off. Now Signor Mussolini cannot take it off. He is condemned, although he is a most amiable man, he is condemned to go through life with that terrible and imposing expression which really does a great deal of injustice to his kind.
Sorry friends, there was some problem with the technology. It's beyond control. I'm sorry that you could not see the picture of Bernard Shaw, but I'm sure you could hear the audio where he makes fun of Mussolini. And now we move on to Arms and the Man, which talks about the Bernard Shaw's anti-romantic views, his ideas about against war, against imperialism, and I'll request Professor Vaibhav Bhai to tell us about the thematic summary of Arms and the Man.
Okay, friends, you must have seen the body language of George Bernard Shaw in this video. He was a great actor also, and Arms and the Man was the first play which brought him popularity. Even though he wrote Widowers' Houses in the beginning, but Arms and the Man is one such play in which he punctures the romantic ideals regarding war and marriage, and he was completely clear-headed personality as far as war and marriage are concerned. And in this play, the title has been taken from Virgil's epic Aeneid, which was translated by John Dryden. And the very first line runs as of arms and men I sing. Now George Bernard Shaw has cleverly introduced contrast in the title of the play itself. Virgil wants to sing paeans to the suffering and to the hardship that one undergoes during war, while Bernard Shaw wants to show the futility of war.